some buttons here, and I'm not really good at pushing buttons.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. That's why he gets paid the big dollars to push the buttons, and I'm just squawking into a box. Okay, this is the Jack Clegg Show, the Tuesday night edition. You're listening to WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com. And I've got a whole show prepared, but about 20 minutes ago, I was hit with an alert on my phone that alerted me. No, it wasn't an Amber Alert. It was a Dick Butkus alert. I grew up in Chicago, and I've probably mentioned that before. And one of my heroes as a junior high and high school era, which was more than 50 years ago, was watching the Chicago Bears and Dick Butkus. His passing today at the age of 80 will be... The Bears play the Washington Commanders tonight, and I think if you watch the game, they will have hundreds of videos, highlights of Dick Butkus and his career. We have a caller that is just calling in. Our call-in number is 504-556-9696. Hello, who's this?
Yeah, hey, Jack, this is Bill Bronski calling from the South Side.
In Chicago.
So we looked up your bio, and it come to find out you are from the Chicago South Side. So,
yeah.
Hey, today's a sad day for number 51.
I was just talking about
all my buddies. It's a bad day. But talking to some of my friends, from the South Side, we used to play a lot of tackle football with no pads, and this kid named Tommy Flaherty. His greatest move was to kind of clothesline people, and then as they hit the ground, he kind of bite them on the shoulder and say, "This is for Butkus." So, the guy was a great linebacker, and the city is really going to miss his overall toolage that he's tried to bring to the Chicago Bears. So, again, Jack, have a good day. Love your show.
Thank you.
And you know
Mr.
what? Go Bears, huh?
Go Bears. Go Bears. All right. Thank you, Bill, for calling in. In New Orleans, who would equal Butkus? I think. Who do you think? Yeah. This is my decisive producer here. If this player passes, who would be missed like Butkus is going to be missed in Chicago? The Dome Patrol? Those are the three linebackers. Yeah. That was Sam Mills was one of them. Vaughn Johnson, was it? And who's the other? Ricky Jackson. Ricky Jackson. Just saw Ricky playing golf the other day. Ricky, quite a guy. Having a hard time moving around though. Gosh, their knees go and their hips go. It's tough.
We talked about both guys
at WWL.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those guys put their heart and soul in it, and then as they age, it's hard to move around. So the show, and we have an entire program going on, but I did want to mention the passing of Dick Butkus. New Orleanians have a connection with Chicago and with the Bears. Mike Ditka, who was a tight end on the team that Dick Butkus played on. He was on the offensive side, and of course, Butkus was a middle linebacker. And New Orleanians had Mike Ditka here, so they're used to the language and his accent and so forth. But my high school football coach went to Chicago Vocational High School, known as CVS. It was also on the South Side. And he was a guard. Butkus played center, middle linebacker, occasionally fullback. He was a punter. He was a kicker. He did everything. He was the jack of all trades. He was. And he went to the University of Illinois in Champaign, played there, and was drafted by the Bears right out of college and started immediately and had an impact on the National Football League. He just was feet to the walls. Is that what it's called?
Oh,
Well, I was going to say something like that. But anyway, and thanks, Mr. Bronsky, for calling in. And there's a lot of New Orleanians who appreciate rough, tough, striking football because the Saints have had teams like that. The Dome Patrol that's a great example. They were the same way. Anyhow, rest in peace, Dick. All right. The other things we were going to talk about this evening. What other things could we possibly talk about tonight? There's so much going on. I want to talk about for this evening. School attendance is tanking nationwide. I'm going to mention that briefly. One other thing we're going to talk about tonight, just in case callers want to call in and comment. One topic that I'm really, really interested in, and this is articles that someone sent me, and I read them, and I find this exciting. What does it mean to be middle-aged? We're going to talk about that. What does it mean to be middle-aged? I remember growing up, I thought guys in their 30s and 40s and early 50s were middle-aged. Is that you're saying?
would you believe? 30, 40. I'll be 40.
Oh man, over the
But-
hill, over the hill.
When you talk
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yes.
like you know,
Unk.
you believe
Well, I've heard the other thing that certain people my age, I know I look much younger than I really am, but my real age, we're called boomers,
yeah.
and they don't, and it's not a flattering way.
Well, this right person.
You say yes, sir.
I say yes, sir, but I'm like, okay, this is the cool way of saying it. All my people. Hey, what's up, Pop?
What's up, Pop? That's good. That's good. That's good.
Good thing.
Well, I'll wait for somebody to say that to me. Usually they don't, but
I said,
thank you. Thank you very much. That's really good. All right. And so we're going to talk about middle age, what it means to be middle age, and some new statistics. The ages of middle age are changed. We'll get to that in a while. What else are we going to talk about? Oh, this is, I love this story. Nancy Pelosi, who was a former Speaker of the House since Biden has been in, and then prior to Biden, when Obama was the president, she was a speaker. And she had what was called a hideaway office, a special office in the Capitol. Well, on Tuesday, on Saturday, Kevin McCarthy, who was the Republican Speaker of the House when the Republican got the majorities in November, he was elected Speaker. He was thrown out, and the office is vacated. And there is a person replacing him, and that person sent Nancy Pelosi a letter evicting her from her office in there. All right. That's what we're going to talk about tonight, and some other topics as well. This is the Jack Clegg Show, 504-556-9696. If you want to call in, we're going to take a break for a few moments right now.
I'm Hop, an active Christian who loves Louisiana. One of my goals is to bring Louisiana education from 50th to number 1.
And I'm Dave. I'm not afraid of government bureaucrats. I fear God. The rights and freedoms come from Him.
This is Liberty or Lockdown. Please join us on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com.
The
fastest growing conservative talk show in the South is now on 5 days a week on WGSO 990. That's right, American Ground Radio has moved from Saturdays to Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. American Ground Radio is based out of Louisiana and is grounded in the ideas that founded our country. American Ground Radio is a show for everyone who believes there is greatness within each of us. So tune in Monday through Friday starting at 8 p.m. on the community voice of the Crescent City, WGSO 990 AM.
Everything old is new again. If you relate to these clips playing in the background, you will relate. Everything old is new again, right here on WGSO. Hi, this is Douglas Viviani. Everything old is new again. Join us for the fun on Saturday mornings at 8, right here on the community voice of the Crescent City, WGSO.
Rouse Market cordially invites you to its Fall Wine Gala, Friday, November 3rd at La Berge, Baton Rouge. Dress in your Great Gatsby vest and sample over 80 wines and hors d'oeuvres. It's the Rouse Market Fall Wine Gala, November 3rd. Get tickets now at rouseag.com.
It's the Flaming Conservative. Join me now on Friday nights at 7 p.m. for Holy and Patriotic Jambalaya on WGSO. Hey, this is Christian Garrick. I'm excited about my new show on WGSO 990. Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. A lot of things going on in this country and in the city that are concerning your voice. You might be afraid to speak out for fear of cancel culture or losing your job. Christian Garrick show on WGSO. It's your platform. Noon to 2, weekdays, right here on 990 AM.
Get ready, Greater New Orleans. The Great Southern Mennonite Show is coming for 2 days only, October 21st and 22nd at the Punch Drink Center on Williams Boulevard. Show hours, Saturday 9 to 5, Sunday 10 to 5. Hundreds of dealer tables available, full of guns, knives, ammunition, holsters, gun books, camouflage, jewelry, and more. That's the Great Southern Mennonite Show, October 21st and 22nd at the Punch Drink Center. Show hours, 9 to 5 on Saturday, 10 to 5 on Sunday. Don't miss it.
All right, New Orleans. Welcome back to segment 2 of the Jack Clegg Show, the Thursday night edition. And we had mentioned previously that Dick Butkus passed. Again, we'll think about him fondly. We're going to talk about some other issues, though, as we go on. One issue that I was just, when I turn on my laptop in the morning, I don't know how you all get your information. We used to read newspapers. People don't do that anymore. And now we log on. There we are. And on my, I'm at MSN is the one I use. This is not an endorsement. It just came with the computer. It's the one that's there. I haven't gone through and checked them all and picked the best or the worst. It's the one that's on my computer. And stories come up. I am amazed. Well, there are two things. One, the stories come from not the New York Times or the Daily Advocate or the Morning Advocate or the Dallas paper. They're papers I've never heard of before or publications I've never heard of before. And that's what we have in the internet. We've got all these different groups. Okay. So it's hard to know. I'm not saying that they're inaccurate, but oftentimes they don't tell the whole story. And one story that just jumped out at me, and well, actually, an entire species of stories involving the negative parts of going to school. Teachers quitting. We've talked about that on the show. Teachers not being happy. Why? Because the kids misbehave. They won't learn. They come to classes. It's like teaching a one class is like a one-room school where you have people reading. Let's say you're teaching sixth graders. You have people reading at the second and third year high school level, 10th or 11th grade levels. And then you have students reading at the third grade level, all in the same class. And I can imagine this being quite a challenge. I think administrators need to really, really buckle down and find a way to tackle some of these issues. But my point is, There are stories about that every day. And there's something going on that all of us need to pay attention to, because without educating an up and coming class, we are doomed. Right now, some people are saying, well, we have to have all these illegal aliens because nobody wants to work. And if that's the result of people not wanting to work, what's going to happen when people don't want to learn? You may.
But
Go ahead.
I've always believed when I
Mm-hmm.
meaning
Mm-hmm.
there were certain things going on.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I had,
Yeah.
and whatever I learned was reinforced at home.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Well, and let me just say, it worked for you. It worked for me. It worked for most of our colleagues who had worked. Now they're, in my case, they're retiring, but who did go to school. They followed this ladder up to success. What about kids who just don't want to go to school? What is their future? So that was the point I was trying to make. So the article that I read, it's called, quote, "School Attendance is Tanking in the U.S. and it's a huge problem." I won't go through the whole article, but it cited that 25% of students nationwide are now chronically absent, meaning they miss more than 18 days a year. But the story goes on. It's a horrible story. The problem with it, part of it is they don't say, are these public schools? Are these private schools? Are they all schools? I don't know. We have a caller waiting on hold, don't we, Matthew?
Yes, sir.
Matthew,
Hello.
how are you this evening?
I'm
Thanks
doing
for
all right.
calling. Thanks for calling. Go ahead.
So, two quick things.
Sure.
The FBI has a new definition for terrorists, another category, Trump supporters.
What is the new definition for terrorists? People who
That
listen to
Trump
my
supporters are
program.
terrorists.
What is it?
Trump supporters. Not necessarily people who are listening to your program. I'm sure there's people out there who listen to your program who hate Donald Trump.
Okay.
I mean, it's a possibility.
Is it in writing, or is this what someone just said?
Well, this is Newsweek has an article about it.
Okay.
And apparently these are official leaks. In other words, the FBI wants us to know. That's kind of a little side going on there.
Yes.
And the other, in a way, you can take this as good news in a sort of sick and twisted way, and that is they wouldn't be doing this if they thought they could steal it again. Think about that.
Well, that is a point, but they're going to do everything. This is just the beginning. There was another. There's another aspect of the show we're going to talk about. I'll talk about it now, and that is there are 14 states which report. These are the Washington Examiner came out with it, which is a conservative paper in Washington D.C. No question about it.
Yes.
But they track these things. 14 states, and the states, for those of you who don't know, when there is an election for president or for any other big federal office, the states make the law for voting in that state. Okay?
Yes.
They control those laws. Now, as we learned during the Trump-Biden election in 2020, the rules are different. And it was really, really apparent when suddenly people didn't have to show up and vote. I'm not talking about absentees. I'm talking about people who normally would just go down the street to the school, show their ID and vote. They didn't do that.
No, you had to drop boxes.
Mail-in votes and all the bad, illegal things that can happen. Okay, So what's going on right now in 14 states? They have reported that there are potential And according to Washington Examiner, I think they said there's real potential for, in 2024, Donald Trump being taken off the ballot in these states. Why? Well, they're relying upon a group of progressives that are pursuing the idea that the 14th Amendment, which says giving aid and comfort to the enemy, prevents you from holding.
Insurrection. Yeah.
Yes,
I'm familiar with the argument.
yes.
I-
So
Didn't one of those already go to the Supreme Court and get shot down,
it did.
thereby establishing precedent?
In the Supreme Court, well, it did if, in fact, it happens that way. If his name is taken off the ballot 30 days before the election, I don't think they'll have a chance to get to the Supreme Court. So,
Well, then they'll have to deal with what happens after that.
well, and
But then another more immediate thing I thought I'd bring up, because the local news media is not trumpeting it as like you would think they would, and that's a bit of good news, which is so weird. We never get that. The saltwater wedge has been delayed by 30 days.
what does that mean?
That means that Jefferson Parish has 30 more days for the 29th before the saltwater wedge arrives
Okay,
and inundates the the potable water system. There's a question about whether you want
I saw the great irony.
with salt.
Irony here, and we've got to take a break. Thanks for calling in, Matthew. You always raise outstanding points, and I'm going to respond to the saltwater wedge thing. I think it's ironic, and I'll get to the irony after we take a break. This is the Jack Clegg Show, Thursday night edition, WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com. Our phone number, 504-556-9696.
or more. There's design capabilities to help your business get noticed. Call us today at 504-586. Do it.
Rescue is a nonprofit volunteer run rescue. We provide adoption services and care for homeless animals across the New Orleans metro area. We also offer pet supplies and grooming services at our downtown and Marigny locations. The shops are located at 839 State Street and 513 Jermaine Street and are open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. weekdays and noon to 6 on Saturdays, noon to 5 on Sundays. We can be found on the web at BigEasyPetShop.com. Support local animals in need by shopping and adopting with Big Easy Animals.
Hey, this is Jack. Audience management. Something. This will continue.
Jeff Pereira, host of Ringside Politics. I'd like to introduce WGSO General Manager, Mary Ann Baldwin.
WGSO is locally owned and operated right here in New Orleans. We believe in cultivating local talent and emphasize local programs. If you have an interest in hosting your own program, then we have some prime spots available.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Oh, take advantage of this great offer. Email me at jeff@wgso.com or call me at 504-669-6076. I'll fulfill your radio dream.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Jeff Palermo. The U.S. House needs a new speaker after Kevin McCarthy was ousted in a historic vote by House members. Baton Rouge Congressman Garrett Graves is upset with Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who led the effort to remove McCarthy. I mean, it's got to be kidding me. Watching what happened yesterday and watching this guy try and pretend that he is a conservative. Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise announced today his candidacy to be the next Speaker of the House. 30 19-year-old Ian Howard has avoided a possible death sentence by taking a plea deal for fatally shooting a Altlants police officer in 2017, also wounding 3 others. Howard was set to stand trial in March and earlier pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. But Assistant District Attorney Altlants says Howard was aware of his actions that night.
Mama clearly blaming someone else, which we believe is proof that he knew that he got called.
LRA.
One is living and every day those who struggle with a problem like nicotine addiction and loneliness. It's not to talk to you now, and we can help. Get vacant facts, partnership with behindthepagela.com. Sponsored by the Louisiana Department of Justice. Wow, 2 ways to play, 2 ways to win. Team double, play double time from the lottery. Win up to $15,000. Visit any Water retailer and pick up double time for your shot at winning up to $15,000. Saints fans, are you ready for some football? Punch your ticket and play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Win up to $100,000. Score extra points with extended play and bonus gambling involved. Visit LouisianaLottery.com for more details. Must be 21.
When the time came, I knew I had to find a place where Mom would be safe and active while still feeling independent. A place that was close to all of us and everything she needed. Locally owned and operated in the heart of Gonzales, I found Francois Ben Senior Living. They specialize in independent and assisted living and memory care.
Call 225-647-PEND for more information on our special pre-leasing office.
Francois Ben Senior Living. Experience life as it should be.
Hi, this is Kevin Barr, host of My Guy That Movies. Listen every Sunday at 8 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM, the community voice of Texas.
Touch Charitable Foundation, in association with the Crew Company, is giving the Full Tops Umbrella Walk and Gumbo Draw on October 28th at 9 a.m. in Public Park, shelter number 10 of magazine. Food, drink, live music, all included for registration. This is where Mardi Gras meets Halloween, and everyone is encouraged to come in costume. Its activities include Small Friars Umbrella Decorating Tent, Decorated Wagon Parade, and Small Friars Funhouse. Please go to www.tucksfoundation.org for information and registration.
Join me, Mitch Gibb, every Monday and Friday at 5 p.m. live on WGSO Radio New Orleans. On the Saints football, the 12th season of Fiddler Ridge will be live from near Newsom at 6632 Veterans Boulevard and Metairie Media Center for another exciting season of Saints football live on WGSO Radio. Join me, Mitch Gibbs, every Saturday live from the Silver Slipper Casino in Cape St. Louis.
You know, the beat exchange is a new concept. USA 990
All right, New Orleans, welcome back to the third segment of the Jack Clegg Show, the Thursday night edition on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com. And our call-in number is 504-556-9696. And we have one of our favorite callers, Rusty. Rusty, how are you this evening?
I'm pretty good. A little out of breath, Jack, but pretty good.
Why are you out of breath, Rusty? Have you been doing push-ups or sit-ups or
No,
just
just
work?
a lot of just errands.
Errands.
Just errands.
Okay.
Just so I get it done before the big show comes on.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay. This is what I wanted to say,
Sure.
and I'm going to challenge your thinking a little bit.
Oh, no,
You
I don't need
might
that.
not consider it a challenge, but I'm going to throw it out there.
Sure.
Last time you were up on the radio last Tuesday, we were talking about the saltwater intrusion.
Yes.
And someone told me today that they heard and they read, and I think I heard a little bit of it too on the news, that it might be delayed even as much as a month before it gets in our area. And
my producer Ronald, before the show, we were talking about it. He said that he had heard the same story.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, Ronald.
Yes.
Great that somebody else heard it too.
Yes.
And I heard about a week or more ago that it may take the snowfall after next year's spring to give us any hope of relief. So my thought is that the only news I really trust anymore is the weatherman, the meteorologist, or the weatherwoman, and how can they get that so wrong unless they're trying to hype things up, just like with the climate change.
Yes.
They're trying to hype things up so that for commercial reasons or whatever reasons, or maybe just for the newscast and so on. And I'm just thinking, you can't say that a little rain that we're getting now is going to delay this a month and everything's going to be okay. Perhaps they're talking about it being okay. We may not even get the summer. And then saying just a week earlier that if we're lucky and we get enough snowfall to melt from up north, we're going to be okay. So this is my question. This is my thought, and maybe in your direction. Just because people have a diploma and they're professionals doesn't make them honest people.
No, it doesn't. No.
And all these people today are pushing for promotion and that fashion, simply to get to a place where I wonder if they put aside just being honest with people rather than hyping things up for their own professional status. So that's my thing. I know you focus on a lot of education, and I think, people should have reading, writing, and arithmetic. But sometimes I think we're forgetting about basic things in life, which are respect, honesty, and things of that value in order to, to promote a story like this one with the saltwater intrusion. So I'll listen to what you have to say.
Sure, hold on, let me respond. And I couldn't agree with you more. And I hate to use this word. It's pejorative. But the weather has turned into propaganda. And we just use New Orleans as an example. I can remember this spring, when the but real serious conversations were taking place on how American emergencies are the result of climate change. Remember, we had wildfires. We have other events occurring. On my show, I reported that the Panama Canal had to make some alterations to which vessels were able to come through, whether they had to reduce the amount of draft the ships had as they passed through the canal. They weren't getting the rain, and it was due to El Nino and so forth. But despite the fact that all of those are explainable, media members said, no, it's climate change. It's climate change. It's climate change. And this agenda of climate change, we know it's a moneymaker. It's a moneymaker.
Right.
We can look in the oceans, I was traveling by automobile through the Midwest, and I was going by these massive, what do they call them? They're big fans, and they're turbines, and the turbines create electricity, and they're everywhere. And the farmers are like, yeah, all right, you want to put that there? I'll charge you, $10,000 a year. You can keep it there, and and they're just spinning and making electricity. The ironies are incredible. All summer long, and I have a couple of jobs that I work outdoors. And I'm outdoors a lot. And I want to know if it's going to rain all summer long. How often did the meteorologists say, rain chances tomorrow 60%, rain chances tomorrow 40%? No rain. They were wrong. So the first irony is these are the people blowing the whistle, and we don't trust them. When we have a hurricane coming, I don't trust what they say. I trust the pictures, the satellite pictures. I trust
Mhm.
that. I trust
Yeah.
that. Each time the hurricane approaches the Gulf, there are like 15 different possible passages, and they all happen to go near big cities. How about that? But it eventually comes out. But the one big irony that I have seen about this saltwater wedge that we're having is I saw the news, local news. They were talking about what they're doing in Kenner, where the pipeline starts in Kenner, and it goes across the river to the West Bank and then down river to Marrero, and it will bring fresh water to the people of West Jefferson Parish, those people who live on the West Bank of Jefferson Parish, like Ronald, who lives in the Avondale area, and there they will have it. The big irony is, how are they getting the water there? They can't put in big steel, concrete pipelines. You could never do it. They're using, and I'm going to use the word plastic pipelines, because I was watching guys were picking them up with their arms. These were not metal. These were not heavy. They were flexible, and they're plastic. And they're going to bring water and save some people in this emergency. I've been trying to listen to how Orleans Parish is going to get its water, and I've talked to some people, and they say, well, there's another project in Kenner, and you and I talked about it, I think. What happens if the wedge moves further upriver? Well, they can just add more plastic to it, more pipeline. So I think that's so the ironies are everywhere. And one thing that is certainly happening, boy, if I had stock, I would put it in anything that carried fresh water, plastic containers, whatever, because every time I go shopping, I see carts filled with water. Everybody's buying water. They can't keep it on the shelves. So that's, for those of you listening outside of New Orleans, this saltwater intrusion is not unprecedented. It happens every once in a while, and it happens because there's not enough water. The volume of the current isn't what it normally is, and the depth of it. Okay, salt water comes up from the Gulf of Mexico. Salt water is heavier. It's near the bottom. So the Corps of Engineers have built kind of a dam. It's underwater, and it will prevent some of the salt water from coming up. The problem is we still are having transportation, and the ships might have 40-foot draft, and they need to have 40 feet of water below them. So that's where the problem is. We will know how serious this becomes when the Coast Guard says, sorry, no more ships. You have to lighter your cargo on barges down in the Gulf of Mexico, and then have the towboats push the barges up. Until that happens, I'm not taking it too seriously. Okay. We're going to take a break. Rusty, can you hold on? We got to take a break in a few seconds. Okay. This is WGSO, the Jack Clegg Show, Thursday night edition. Call-in number 504-556-9696.
Louisiana Music Heritage Experience presents Nora Funk Fest, October 20th through the 22nd at the New Orleans Jazz Museum. This festival includes 3 days of our local beloved music, food, art, and fun, plus a special cast domino and Dave Bartholomew exhibit. The festival will feature Irma Thomas, Nina Ristentelli, the
Dirty Dozen Brass Band, George Porter Jr. and the Running Partners, and so much more. For tickets and more information, go to NOLAFunkFest.com.
Kate Delaney from America Tonight. The show kicks on at midnight, and I'm loving the overwhelming support in New Orleans. What a group of fantastic listeners here on WGSO 990 AM. Join me every morning to catch up on what I call the buzz in your backyard and mine. You'll hear some of the most interesting people on the planet from the world of business, politics, sports, and, well, just intriguing people with a story to tell. If you're around, give us a call. Don't worry, I'll spit out the number plenty of times on the air. Let's agree to meet at midnight right here on WGSO 990 AM in New Orleans.
Hey, Mimi, we're moving to Wednesday April 5. You can check out Who Said She Said on a new day.
Okay.
A new day we will still be discussing and debating topics.
Take your phone call.
You can listen to us on 990 AM WGSO, WGSO.com.
And find out who's right. Of course, that's me.
No, of course, that's me. I've been doing this 23 years, Mimi.
Practice makes perfect.
So you see, we'll have plenty to talk about on Who Said She Said.
Wednesday at all.
Right here on WGSO.
Donate your vehicle and make a difference. WGSO 990 partnered with charitable boat rides and services, also known as CARS, to allow you the opportunity to donate your car, truck, motorcycle, RV, or boat to our nonprofit organization. You may qualify for a tax reduction while supporting the cause. Simply go to WGSO.com and follow the link on our homepage. Vehicle donation pickup is always free to you, and most vehicles can be picked up in 24 to 72 hours. You'll receive an initial car donation receipt upon pickup, and then the CARS team will work to turn your car into cash to support our cause. Once your vehicle is sold, the CARS team will provide you proper tax forms in time to file. Their friendly donor support representatives are available 7 days a week to assist throughout the process. Again, for more information, go to WGSO.com.
Hi, I'm Pop.
And this is Dave.
Please join us on Liberty or Lockdown on Thursdays at 5 p.m.
Hello, this is David Jeremiah. Join me each weekday morning at 5:30 or 6:30 for Turning Point here on Talk Radio 990 AM.
Got your license to grill? Call Chew on This, Saturdays at noon on WGSO, and tell us all about it. Don Clement and Patty B are waiting to hear your cooking secrets.
All right, New Orleans. Welcome to the fourth and final segment of the Jack Clegg Show for Thursday night, Thursday edition. This is WGSO and WGSO.com, and our phone number is 504-556-9696. Rusty is still on the line. Rusty, I have an entirely different topic, and I wanted to, while you're there, and get your comments about this. I think this is kind of interesting. When I read it, I was shocked, and it's kind of thought-provoking. Okay. In 1973, which was 50 years ago, the World Health Organization was doing studies on what is called gerontology. Gerontology is a study of aging. That's how we age. And since 73, there have been all kinds of changes in healthcare, activities, everything. At that time, Professor Chebaterev of Geneva, Switzerland, wrote a paper, and it was kind of like this was the paper that everyone followed. At that time, they were critical that modern gerontology was not undertaking sufficiently intense studies of the aging process. In 1973, middle age, if you were middle age, you were ages 45 to 60. That was somebody who was middle age in 1973. Elderly age was 60 to 75. Okay. The story I read today came out. What are today's information? Okay. There are new age classifications by the WHO. Now, remember, the WHO are the guys who still haven't told us where COVID started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have some question marks about the WHO. However, they're the only entity out there saying it. Okay. From age 0, I guess that's if you survived the abortion issue. To 17, the classification is underage. Okay. Youth or young people are the next, and that is age 18 to 65. Let me repeat that. Ages 18 to 65 is youth or young people. Middle age is age 66 to 79, and the elderly or seniors are 80 to 90. So you can see this has all been pushed back. Now, I find that interesting, and I could go into great detail, but I won't. We don't have a lot of time for this. But the biggest conclusion I take from this is the WHO, in collaboration with its other supporters at the UN, want people to work longer. They want people to work longer. And this is why you come up with a middle-age category, which from 66 to 79. Rusty, what do you think about this?
Listen, I study these things pretty well. I try to understand the sociological things that are happening in our world and have for a long time. My understanding is that men, up to a few years ago, I haven't read it recently, lived to an average age of 76.
Right.
Women lived about 5 years older, to 81. So I don't know what they're talking about. There are not many people. The average age would probably be around 78 or 79 for both men and women combined. And I don't know where they get those statistics. I think they're dreaming. And I've looked at this. I've looked at this for a long time. And in the category you mentioned, the second category, 16 to what?
Was 18 to 65 was considered youth or young people?
No, we all know when Social Security comes, you're 62. We all know that. That's crazy.
That's true.
We all know that. So I don't know what they're trying. I think they're trying to tell us, listen, we're going to live such a long time. You don't need to worry about anything. You're going to be old, very old. And there are the spiritual components to this too, which I won't get into right now.
Right.
Which means you're going to live so long that you don't have to worry about anything of a spiritual nature. But I'll leave it at that. And so my point is that I think these people are trying to make us live longer. They're in hospices and other places to make us live longer. But we're only gaining a few years, I think, even in those processes.
Well, what's really kind of odd. Maybe there's a trick going on, and this sounds like a conspiracy theory. I'm reluctant to say it, but for the last couple of weeks, I've talked about the Office of Population Affairs. Remember we talked about this and how
I remember quite well.
They're moving to eliminate child rearing, and by doing so, controlling population. Well, they're doing that to young people. They're not doing it to older people. We don't have what's it called, euthanasia. Euthanasia. We don't force that now. Nobody's going to accept that now. But by keeping people getting older and by keeping them alive, and if you watch any television at all, I'm going to say that a third of the commercials deal with medicine, and they deal with things that are going to keep you alive.
Right.
And so they're keeping alive a bunch of people, but we're not having babies. So we're going to have to figure out whether that's just by accident or whether there's really something else going on. And I hate to sound like a conspiracy guy, and it just seems coincidental. It's not a coincidence that these things are happening.
Can I throw out one more thought with this?
Go ahead.
I hate to sound the way I'm about to sound because I don't want anybody to be alienated from what I'm about to say.
All right.
But they say in China they're developing biological weapons that can kill particularly Caucasians and the world, Europeans, Caucasians, and so on. So there may be some truth in what you're saying in the sense that there are people coming in this country that have multiple children.
Sure.
But they're not Caucasians. and the amount of Caucasians are smaller and smaller. Now, am I afraid of this? No, I'm not afraid of this. I love children and everybody, all the children.
Sure.
Well, my point is, I think this population thing, I thought about it after, for a week or so, several days after you brought it up about a month ago, or so. And I think there is some truth to it. But on the other hand, if they're saying that we can live to 80 or 90, when I heard Obamacare, they said they were going to allow people to die. They weren't going to give them even medical care after they got to a certain age. They're only going to do it for the young.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a contradiction there, or I'm not sure. So how do you put the two together?
Well, I don't, and one of the reasons is I don't trust the people who are making the decisions.
Yes.
It's and I'm not a radical. I just don't think they've done anything to deserve trusting. I heard when this is just a simple little thing, and we were laughing about it before the show, is now at this time, the Biden administration wants to rebuild the wall between the United States and Mexico. I'm like, what are you doing? And of course, no, Trump was wrong when he did it, but we're right when we're doing it. This is the epic American politician, and I think we're all sick of it. Anyway, Rusty, thanks for joining me tonight. Enjoy the conversation, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, listening audience. And this is the Thursday night edition of the Jack Clegg Show. Thanks for joining, being patient. Dick Butkus, we're going to miss you. This is WGNO 990 AM, WGSO.com, signing off.
Night.
Good night, Ronald.